Alright, in this video we're going to be talking about Roma. I'm going to go through some of the basic deductions and then I'm going to take a look at this 10 by 10 and this 6 by 6, both by me. If you haven't seen Roma before, it's a puzzle where you need to place an arrow in every cell with the goal from any cell. If you follow the directions of the arrow, you'll eventually reach this black circle. So, for instance, I might place arrows like this, and now we have a path following the arrows from that cell to this circle. And the additional restriction is that in each region, you can't repeat the direction of an arrow. So, for example, we couldn't do this because now we have two down arrows in this region. Now, not you don't need to have every direction in every region. For example, you see these two cell regions obviously couldn't fit all four directions. But yeah, very simple rules, but this genre has a lot of depth to it. So I'm going to go over just a few things over here in the blank grid, and then I'm going to go through these two puzzles. So one of the most important secondary deductions you can make, beyond just contradiction with the rules, is you can never have a loop of arrows, because any cell in that loop, if you follow the path, would just return to itself and would never reach the goal. Similarly, you can't have two arrows pointing at each other directly. That's just a special case of a loop. You can never have an arrow pointing at the border of the grid because it doesn't go anywhere. With regard to regions, you have kind of the Latin squarey type deductions. For example, we can kind of say there's a hidden single in this region because it's a 4-cell region. We know it needs all four directions. The only place we can place left is in that cell. And then actually this specific shape, the T tetromino, only has two ways to resolve, because once you go up here, the only place you can put down is there. So you can do that, or you can do the vertical reflection of that. Because of course you couldn't go right here because it would point, two arrows would be pointing at each other, and you couldn't go left, it would be pointing towards the border. And so for this reason, the larger regions are usually much more powerful in Roma, so keep an eye out for 4-cell regions. 3 cells can be good as well. 2 and 1, usually not useful till you have other things around them. In particular, the 2 by 2 region is very restrictive. Whenever you have an arrow that crosses an internal border of this 2 by 2, like this for example, it must immediately leave the 2 by 2 in the next cell. And we can kind of do casework to prove that this is true. So this cell can't go left, it would point back at the same arrow. It can't go right because you would be repeating right in the same box. But if we went down, now this can't be up, it can't be right, it can't be down. So you'd have to go left and then up, and you'd have a loop inside that box. This gets even more powerful at the border of the grid. So with this 2 by 2, we know there always has to be a down arrow somewhere, and it'll always have to be in one of these two cells. So let's just put it on the left for now. Now from this lemma, where we know that it needs to exit the region immediately, we get this left. And now we either have right up or up right, we don't know yet. But anytime you see a 2 by 2 at the border of a grid, you know you need either that or this. And this is interesting because it restricts the ways the path can move through that region. I think with the more complex Roma deductions, it's very helpful to think about path through a region rather than individual cells. So in this configuration, if you try to enter from the left through this cell, you'd immediately get spat back out to the left. You couldn't enter from the left through this cell because of the left arrow. Now, if we tried entering from the right, the bottom right, you'd end up with, this would have to be up, and this would then have to be right. So you end up getting spat back through the same border you came in from. Whoops. But you could enter from the right here and then escape upward. Then you can also come from the top, which is much less restricted. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you have two 2x2s next to each other at the border, this is now a problem because there's no way for the path to exit this region now. Because we can't put the down right here, that instantly contradicts. So if we put a down left here, now this can only go up and then only go right, and you have a loop. So we instead have to have this and this and this and this. And then these inner 4 cells need to escape somehow. So these 2 cells can't have a left, and these 2 cells can't have a right. So the only way for them to get out is through this top border. So you could do, for example, this, and then you'd have to go right, up, left. Or you could do the horizontal reflection of that. Another thing to look out for with these 2x2s is they can never exist in a corner like this, because now no matter which way this cell goes, it has no way to escape the region. So that's important as a setter, but if you're solving a Roma puzzle, for example, if you have an almost 2x2 like this, we know that this cell must repeat in that 3-cell region, because otherwise this would be a virtual 2x2. And that lets us deduce that this cell does not go up. Does not go up, because the only place an up could repeat is right here, and then this cell would have to go right twice, which breaks the region. Okay, I think that's all the deductions I want to get out of the way first, so I'll go take a look at these actual puzzles. These are quite tough, so if you haven't solved any Roma before, it might be helpful to check out the Puzzlink database and get a feel for the genre. And I'm going to start with the 10x10. I actually think the logic in this puzzle is a little easier than the 6x6, but it's definitely, just with size, it's going to be harder to scan. So I'm going to start with this lemma that we just looked at, with these 2x2s on the border. And now these 4 cells need to get out, and you can't get out here because of the down arrow, so you get this. And similarly, over here, you can't take this left, so you must take that left. This cell can only go down, because if it went up or left, it would run into an arrow, and right runs into the border of the grid. This must be up. It can't go left, down, or right. It can't go right because you'd be repeating right within the region. Now we can start looking at the path we can take to reach this goal. The check route function in Puzzlink is very helpful for that. So it seems the only two possible entrances we have right now are from this cell and this cell, which means you always have to pass through this cell. Oh no, better. We need this first. We need to look at how this cell goes. It can't go down because it would immediately, contradict with the arrow below it. It can't go left because it would form a loop. If it went up, it would then need to go left, which contradicts that arrow, so it must go right, then down. Now we have a better understanding of the route taken to get to this goal. So right now we know that every cell needs to pass through this arrow. It looks like you could enter this route from these two cells, but we actually can't because we can't repeat a down arrow in these two cells. And we can keep making progress off of that because the only way to enter this cell is from above, because we already know the cell below it doesn't go up, and the cell to the left of it can't have a right arrow because you'd repeat right in the region. We can also finish this box. You just can't have a left arrow here, so you have left and up. Now we'll get a few other things. This L can only have its down here. Then this must be left, this must be up, which leaves right here. This must go left, this must go left, this must go up. So we need to prevent this from being a virtual 2x2. So this can't be up, which means that if this was down, you'd have to place the up here, which breaks. So this must be up, this must be down. That leaves right here. Now this top left region needs to escape. If it tried to enter the T tetromino, you'd just form a loop. You'd re-enter the same triomino. So it must get out through this 2x2. But what we looked at earlier is that the only way to get out from the side of this 2x2 is like this. And then that leaves us with this here, left here. This can't go right, so it must go down, and that leaves left for this. This cell can only go right. Now we know this cell can't be a left. So if this were to be right, you'd place a left here. So this must be left, this must be down. This must be down again to prevent forming loops to the side. We have right here. Over here, this cell must go down. So this cell can't go up. So we have up, down, right. This must go right to prevent forming loops, which leaves up here. We've got a few more relatively straightforward things. We have to prevent a loop in this 2x2 and in this 2x2. And now we can check route again and see that we still need to reach this cell. It's the only way to the goal. So we must approach it from above. If we tried coming from this side, we'd be repeating right arrows in the region. So we can put that there. The only way to reach this cell is with a left here. The only way to reach that cell, we already have it, is this left arrow. Um, if we backtrack a bit from this left arrow, we can see that nothing can reach it from here other than the cells we already have. So that does give us a down right here. The only way to reach that down is with this right, so we must have an up here to finish the region. And this 2x2 we can only place left here and down there. Now we can think about how this bottom left area gets out. It must get out through this arrow. It has no way of reaching these two cells because we can't put a right in the left half of that region. And then if it tries to take any of this stuff, it just ends up funneling to this down arrow and coming back down. So the only way to get to this up arrow is with an up arrow below it, which also gives you this left. Then we must reach this up arrow with a right here. Now we need to reach this arrow somehow, which either we can go up here or we can go up here and kind of approach it from behind. So no matter what, this can't be an up, it can't be a right because it would form a loop, so it must be a left. Now the only way out of this region is to go up. Now we have to place a down, it can only go there, which leaves an up here. This cell can't go up anymore, so it must be right. That leaves a down here. Now we go to the top right. Let's see, this cell can't go down, it would repeat down the region, and if it went left, it would have to go up, and that forms a loop. So it must go right. We need an up and a left here, and actually if we take a look at this route, we can say that if we put left, it would form a loop. So we go up, then left. Now we are still trying to reach this cell, or this cell, rather. So the only way to enter it is with a left here, that leaves a right here. The only way to reach this left is with a down here. Now these arrows need a way to escape, so they can either reach this down or this up. So no matter what, we have the left arrow in one of these two cells, so we'll keep that in mind for now. Oh, we do just have this right arrow, it's the only place in the L, so that gives us an up, a left, a down. Now we know this can't be left, because we know it's in one of these two cells. It can't be down, so it must be up. Now the only way to escape this triomino is to go left here. Now right can only be placed there, so this is left. This cell can only go down, which leaves right here. Alright, and we'll try the 6x6 now. So we can start down here. We need a path into the goal. We can get a left here. We can avoid the virtual 2x2, so this can't be up, which means this must be up, which gives you down and right. Whoops. Yeah, actually, the top left is very similar to the 10x10, or almost exactly the same. Right, this can still only get out by doing this, which gives you that. You have down here and left there. We can take a peek at this 2x2. If we went down left here, that's a contradiction, so we must go down right. This can only go right, up, up. This is the only place for a right, so this must be up, which leaves this to be left. All right, now we need to think about these cells in, it's like top right, 3 by 2, or a little more than 3 by 2 even. And how do they get out? Well, they must always reach this cell, and then if it went down, that would form a loop. So this cell must go left. Now we have kind of two different paths that end up reaching this domino. You have this, and then this, and now you have to use a down arrow somewhere here to get to the next row and make it towards the goal. Which means this can never be down, but we do need to pass through that cell, because otherwise you would try to go this way, which would just lead you back to the top right. So we pass through this cell, it can't go down, it can't go back up, and then it can't go right because you'd get stuck in the bottom left again, so it must go left. Now if we put our up arrow here, that would just funnel us back to the top left. So this must be up, this must be left. In this 2 by 2, we can only place the left here, so this must be up. Yeah, now we can think about this cell because it can't be left anymore. It can't be up because it would form a loop. It can't be right because it would point back towards itself, so that must go down. Now this can only go right. And then finally this cell needs to reach that choke point, so that's left. And we just need to clean up the top right. So we need a down arrow in this domino because we know the route must pass through it. That means this can't be down, so it must go right. This must go down. We need an up arrow. It can only be placed there, and then this must go down, and we're good. Yeah, so that's my two Romas. I would really like to see more of this genre. I think there's possibly some unexplored logic here. When I was setting these two, there's a lot of logic that gets lost in the disambiguation. It's very easy to have an ambiguous region in Roma, especially if you're trying to not use too many arrow clues. For instance, this can never be disambiguated without another clue, because you could either go left, up, down, or you could flip that diagonally. You can go up, left, right, and those give you the same exact entries and exits from the region. No matter where you enter the region, you always end up in this cell. And the issue in setting Roma, where it gets frustrating sometimes, is it's hard to place a clue that gives only a little bit of information. You just have to place the whole arrow. So I don't know. I would be interested to see if a really careful constructor could help keep those really advanced deductions in the puzzle and keep it unique. Or it would get ugly, but maybe some variant Roma, which could help those deductions exist. Like even just being able to maybe put cross marks as like kind of a pencil mark Roma. So just saying that a clue, or a clue saying just you can't put a left arrow here instead of, oh, it's definitely a right arrow. Yeah, I don't know. Make Roma, send them to me. Thanks for watching.